Welcome to the beginner's guide for the Division 2 in 2023. Although 4 years old, the Division 2 is still very active and very much alive, and there's new players coming to the game all at a time. I've had feedback saying that new players would like a beginner sort of system within our community and some newer guides. So that's what I'm doing. There's a whole playlist linked down below of a couple of different videos. And in this one, we're going to be covering the start of the game, so your first steps inside a DC, all the way to Endgame. Depending on what version of the game you have bought, you might have a choice to make when you first load up the game and play it. If you just have the base game, you're going to have to play through the main campaign anyway, as that's all you're going to have. You'll start at level 1, you'll go through the main story, you'll level up all the way to level 30, complete the endgame world tiers, and then be in the true endgame to take on the endgame content. However, if you've bought the expansion along with the base game, there's going to be the Warlords of New York storyline to go through as well, and it gives you the option when you first start the game to skip to that if you want to. So you can skip the whole of the main campaign, get boosted to level 30, skip all of the world tier grind, and just go straight into Warlords of New York. Once you complete Warlords of New York, that's when you're then going to be in the true endgame, and you have both maps available to you. The main campaign map is DC, and the expansion campaign map is New York. Now, if you have got this option because you bought the expansion and it's the first time playing through this game, I highly recommend going through the main campaign. I would not skip this. There's so much to do, so much to enjoy, and it's about 20 to 35 hours. It really does depend on how quick you take it or whatnot, but it's a good decent sized playthrough. Once you've done that, you'll complete the world tiers, and you'll be able to still do Warlords of New York, which is about, I'd say, 10 hours playthrough for your first go. Don't skip it, is my recommendation. If you want to, though, you can just skip it and you can go straight into Warlords of New York, not having to worry about the main campaign. In this beginner's guide today, though, I'm going to be covering it from the main campaign and giving you tips as we go. One thing the Division 2 does very well is give you a clear instruction on what to do next. And the first thing it wants you to do is to go through the game's tutorial, and it leads you to the White House. Once at the White House, you'll enter a cutscene by following the objective before going to select your first skill. And this is where my first tip comes along. There's many different skills here that you can see. We've got 8 in total to start with. And once you do the Warlords of New York campaign, it's going to add 4 more. And you've got to select the first skill to begin with. We've got the Pulse, Turret, Hive, Chem Launcher, Shield, Drone, Seeker Mine, and Firefly. Now you can choose any of these that you want, but my advice, especially if you're going through the game on solo, is the Revive Hive. Each of these skills, if you go into them, they've all got different variants, and if you go into the Hive, one of the variants is called the Reviver Hive, and what this does is if you get knocked down by the enemy, this is going to revive you and get you back up. You can see the refill speed there is 180 seconds. That means that once you use this to get back up, you won't be able to use it again for another 180 seconds, but it is very, very good to have on you. So I highly recommend selecting this as your first skill. At this point in the game, when you've just started it in your first visit to the Quartermaster, you are unable to unlock anything else. But as you go through the game and you progress through the story missions, you'll get more skill unlocks, and you'll get a total of 8 unlocks as you make your way to level 30. This means that you'll be able to come back here and select one of each skill variant as you go. And to get all of the skill variants unlocked, once you're in the end of the game, you're going to need to collect Shade Tech. You will do this naturally through your playthrough. Some missions will award Shade Tech, some side missions will award Shade Tech. And if you bring up your map, once you get to endgame, you'll see Shade Tech icons along the map that you can go and find. That is what you're going to use to unlock every single skill variant on the game. Now that you've been introduced to skills, your next task on the game is to make your way to the Theatre Settlement. You'll need to run to this for the first time, and at the Theatre Settlement you're going to speak to an NPC that's going to unlock your first mission, and that mission is Grand Washington Hotel. Again, the game does a great job of instructing you where to go. You just got to mark things on the map. It'll give you a GPS so you can just run to those locations. And any locations you visit, like this Theatre Settlement or any main mission like that, once you've been there, you're going to be able to fast travel to them in the future just by bringing up your map and holding the fast travel button on their icons. So just a few quick tips as you're going through missions on the game and you're going through your playthrough. If you've never played this game before, you are going to notice that there's like a color bar above enemies' heads. There'll be red bars, purple bars, and yellow bars. All the red bars will never have armor. They're just going to be health, which means as soon as you shoot them, you're working on their health right away. But purple bar enemies and then yellow bar enemies, they may have white stacks of armor on their health as well. And you've got to work through that armor first before you take down their health. The purple are the easier, with the yellow bar enemies being called elites, and they're harder. On top of this, with the elite enemies, sometimes you're going to get named elites as well, and these are normally right at the end of missions or side missions. You'll see a name above their head also, and they have a little bit of added difficulty again. You just have to be wary of this while you go through the game, because obviously if you see a room full of red bars, you know it's going to be quite an easy room, say. But if there's loads of purples and a couple of yellows, you might want to take more cover and just take your time a little bit more. And although loot can drop from any of these enemies, you'll notice that with named enemies, there's always a loot item drop. So once you kill them, be sure to pick up your loot before you continue. And talking about loot, while you are going through all of the main story missions and any side missions and open world activities or whatnot, you're going to find collectibles, which will give you XP for collecting, and you'll find like weapon crates and gear crates as well, which will hold loot in them. Be sure to keep an eye out for these, because this is additional loot to help improve your build on your playthrough and additional XP. All the missions and side missions in the Division 2 are quite linear. There is a little bit of exploring and a few little hidden areas or whatnot, but if you just fully explore, you're going to find a lot of loot. You might even come across these loot boxes here, which are faction boxes. We've got Hyenas, Outcasts, we've got True Sons, Black Tusk, and you require keys to get them open. While you go through your first playthrough of the game, you're not really going to get these keys, but in Endgame, bosses will drop keys for their faction, and when you go back through these missions and you replay them, you'll be able to open these, and these tend to have much better loot inside of them. Another great way to find keys is in the underground entrances. I haven't got the whole of the map unlocked yet, but you can see one here just south of the area of where the White House is in. And if you see any of these throughout the map, these are going to take you underground, and there's little loot boxes on walls. We're just going to call them key boxes that have keys inside. So just do some underground runs if you want to collect some of these keys. They're random keys what you get, but just make sure that you do have these keys for these faction boxes when you come across them. Once you have completed your first mission, Grand Washington Hotel, you are going to unlock new missions, and this is now where your main campaign truly starts. The tutorial kind of ends, and you're now free to make your own decisions. And your first decision here is which of these 4 missions are you going to take on. Now notice how each mission has a level recommendation. Jefferson Trade Center here recommends that you be level 3. You've got level 5 for Viewpoint Museum over here. Level 7 is recommended for American History Museum. And level 9 is recommended for Air and Space Museum. Each of these main missions as you go through the game is going to have a recommended level to be at, and if you want to make these as easy as possible, it is suggested that you reach that level before you take them on. So naturally, you're going to go and head to Jefferson Trade Center, which is the lowest level mission, to go and complete that. Once completed, your objective is going to return to the safe house, where there's going to be another cutscene and you get another skill unlock as well. So for the second skill unlock, what I like to use is like a crowd control sort of skill, and my favorite is the striker drone. So I unlock this. I have a reviver hive and a striker drone. With the striker drone, how this works is when you deploy it, it's going to attack the enemies, but also act like a decoy. The enemies are going to get distracted by this. They're going to focus this. So while this is shooting at enemies, you're able to shoot at enemies as well, with some of them not shooting back at you. Once it does run out or get destroyed, it's only got a 25-second cooldown as well. Another skill that works like this is the turret, but it's stationary. You'll put the turret out, it won't be flying around the area, it'll just be in one spot. You can pick it back up as you're moving though and replace it, which is kind of handy. And you've also got like seeker mines as well, which are quite good. You'll throw these out, these will cause quite good damage, but once they're used, you have to wait for the cooldown to use them again, and they won't be a distraction. It really is up to you what you want to go for here. You can go for pulses, you can also go for a shield to add some more defense, but I highly recommend the striker drone myself, and I go with the reviver hive and the striker drone through my playthrough. It is important to understand that you can only have 2 skills active at one time, but you can always go in and switch them on the go when you're out of combat if you unlock more and you want to switch things about a little bit. So your decision isn't final. As I said earlier, as you progress through the main campaign, you're going to get 8 skill unlocks automatically, so you will be able to pick one of each skill as you progress. And then eventually with Shade Tech, you'll be able to unlock all the variants as well. At this point as well as getting your second skill, the game is going to introduce you to perks also. Now with perks, you can only unlock these with Shade Tech, so it's quite important on your first playthrough you choose the right ones, because you might want to unlock some other skill variants as well. So just choose wisely, and one that I highly recommend to start with is the XP perk. This has different tiers, and as you unlock each tier, you're going to be getting extra XP as you're playing the game, which is going to increase your level a little bit faster. I also recommend unlocking the extra grenades, the extra armor kits, being able to restock armor kits and grenades in safe spaces, and the extra inventory spaces. Apart from that, don't worry too much about this. You got some attachments and other things there, but by the end of the game, you are going to have enough Shade Tech to get all of these perks unlocked and all of your skill variants as well. It's just kind of something to focus on while you're playing through, especially if you want to try out some different skill variants. You don't want to be wasting all of your Shade Tech on perks. So with all that sorted, the game is going to ask you to go and visit your first safe house. This is going to act like a little side mission, and you're going to need to make your way over to the final epiphany. Safe houses are great, and in each one you're going to find data drives like this one here, which is going to give you a project but also unlock areas of interest on the map. Make sure you interact with these in every safe house that you go into. After the first one that the game instructs you to go to, it actually unlocks every single safe house that is on the map. Now, it's not advisable to go around them all now, because you'll see that in each area there's a level to it, and some areas are much higher level than you are, which means enemies will just kill you instantly. But as you do progress and you head into these areas naturally, be sure to go to these safe houses and unlock the data drives. Not only will they show you the location of all of the Shade Tech caches in that area, which will help improve your skills and improve your perks, but they'll unlock side missions as well, which will help you get XP, and they give you a project that you can try and complete. The project I got from this safe house is the Downtown East Liberation, and what it wants me to do is resupply a friendly control point in Downtown East, complete activities in Downtown East, and recover Shade Tech caches in Downtown East. Once I do that, I get a bounty which I can do, and I also get some XP. You'll notice the tab on the top left of the screen there. This is all of the options from the map menu. You got your project menu there, which will unlock loads more projects, and also the bounty menu to the right there on the map. Now, there's no bounties at the start of the game, but as you do start completing projects and get further into the game, more bounties will be added, and you'll be able to find them on this map view. You'll just go into the bounty, you'll select the target, you'll start it, it'll instruct you on where to go with GPS. You'll go and kill a bunch of enemies and a boss, and it'll be the bounty complete for some more XP and more loot. And we are nearly there really. I've given you a few tips for the start of the game now. Be sure to keep on checking on locations you visited, like the theatre. You'll notice at this point here, I've got someone to go and speak to just to recruit a staff member, and I've got a few mission givers as well. These icons at the theatre and any other settlements that you unlock on your journey will just give you some more side missions to go and complete for some easy XP. And if we head back to the quartermaster at the White House, you'll notice the staff roster here, and in total we're gonna unlock 8 different staff members. These can be all different sort of perks at the White House for you. There's gonna be a barber, there's gonna be a clan management NPC, there'll be someone that manages the crafting table for you. You basically want to get these all unlocked. They will be natural as you go through the game. You just want to make sure that once their icon is on the theatre or another settlement that you'll unlock later, the campus, that you go and visit them to recruit them. So now it is just a case of going through the game, completing all of the main missions and getting to level 30. You may have noticed on the map these strongholds here. We've got a stronghold, District Union Arena, which is recommended level 26. There's a stronghold all the way over here called Roosevelt Island, recommended level 28. And there's one all the way over here called Capitol Building, recommended level 30. This will be the final stronghold that you complete before you head into the Will tier grind. And all 3 of these you'll work on completing after you complete the main campaign and complete all of the main story missions. But already at this point, you can see the next mission recommended for me is Viewpoint Museum, and it's level 5. I'm not quite level 5 yet. Now, I'll be okay to go and take this on just because you don't match a mission's level. You can still do it. But as I said earlier, it is recommended that you get to that level first. So if you want to do that, just be sure to be completing all the side missions that you unlock along the way, just to give a boost to your level. Not only do you have side missions, but you're going to be unlocking control points as well. These are another great source of XP, but also loot. At every single control point that you take over, there's a loot box to get, and they're really worth doing. By completing side missions and control points, you'll always be at the recommended level or more to take on the next mission. And don't forget, as you unlock new areas, be sure to unlock the safe houses and their projects as well. And before I do move on to the next section of this guide, just notice the icons on some of these missions. So on the main missions here, you can see some of these yellow triangles. These are going to give you another skill unlock to unlock all of the 8 skills. And then you'll notice the shade tech icon as well. Any mission with this icon on is going to reward you with shade tech. This side mission here will reward you with 6 shade tech alone. It takes 5 shade tech to unlock 1 skill variant, so just by completing this side mission, you can get a skill variant, or you can invest it into more perks. Now, one of the biggest things about The Division 2 is its builds. It's about creating builds to make content easier, and it's not really until Endgame you really need to worry about this. Going through the main game for the first time, as long as you're leveling yourself up to the required level of the activity and putting on all the best gear that you get, you're gonna be okay. It's not too difficult. But I will give you a quick bit of advice now on how to do that as you're progressing. You'll be getting loot drops off of enemies, off of bosses. Every time you level up, you're going to be getting field proficiency caches. So make sure that you're opening these. And then you're going to want to sort all of your weapons and gear to make sure that you've got the best gear equipped at all times. Now, I've not touched this at the minute. This is all my starting gear from when you start the game. But you'll see there's little explanation marks to indicate that I've got some new items available in that slot. So we'll start with my primary weapon. You see all of the stuff that I've picked up so far. And what you want to look out for on all of your weapons and all of your gear while you're going through the game is the level. I've currently got a level 1 assault rifle, which is a military P416, but there's a level 2 AKM assault rifle that I've picked up. I've got a level 4 rifle, a level 3 rifle, and there's just all different weapons that I got. Now, with weapons, normally, like with the gear in a moment, I'm going to suggest that you just put the highest level item on. But with weapons, it does matter what you like to use. Now, for example, I do have a level 4 rifle here, and I do like rifles, so I can equip this. However, if that was a shotgun, and I had an assault rifle on that I liked using, and I don't like shotguns, sometimes it is better just sticking with the lower level item because that's what you like to use. There's no point having 2 shotguns on if your playstyle is to play at medium to long range. Just be careful with the weapons and make sure you've got 2 weapons or at least 1 weapon that you like using at all times. And with all of the other items that you've got here, you're going to need to manage it. Now, what I do, once you know what you're going to be using in that primary slot, quickly go to your secondary slot and select something else. And what I'm going to select here is an AKM assault rifle. I love having an assault rifle and a rifle combo. So although I've got better level weapons here, I'm going with the lower level one just because it's what I prefer to use. And with everything else then, I'm just going to mark for dismantle. And with them all marked for dismantle, I'm able to dismantle all these by holding my right stick in, as you can see on the bottom of the screen there, deconstruct junk. Another option is to go and find a vendor. You'll have one at the White House you can go and sell all your junk to as well. So I can dismantle for materials or I can sell for cash. A lot of people will advise you different things here. Now, materials are important for crafting later in the game, and cash is also important as well. You want a good mix of both. So dismantle or sell, it's up to you. It doesn't really matter at this stage though if you just choose to dismantle everything or just choose to sell everything. Once you get to endgame, it's really easy to farm materials or cash, whichever you need. But one thing is for certain, you do want to manage it. You've only got so much inventory space, and keeping a hold of junk is not advisable. So with the weapons selected, you do also have a sidearm. With that, it doesn't really matter. I always just put the highest level sidearm that I have. And then you have gear pieces. you're going to need to choose a mask, a chest piece, a holster, knee pads, gloves, and a backpack. I've not picked up any backpack, gloves, or holster or masks yet, but I do have chest pieces and knee pads. So if you have a look at the chest pieces, I'm always going to look to throw on the highest level item. You can see here they've got 2 level 3 items. One's a green piece and one's a blue piece. Item of rarity is important. Grey you'll soon enough get rid of, and you won't have any grey on your build at all. You'll have green, that will go up to blue. That then goes up to purple, with the final pieces being yellow. What these colours mean is green is common, blue is rare, purple is kind of superior, and then yellow or gold, if you want to say, is high end. The higher the rarity, so like high end, is always going to have the better stats. So you kind of want to always go for the higher rarity. Sometimes you'll keep a higher rarity item that is a lower level just because the stats are better. So have a look at the stats, and you may want to keep it over a higher level item. But I'd never say let an item be too low. So for example, if I had this level 3 chest piece here at blue, and then I got a green level 5 or 6 item, I will eventually replace it for that green item because the stats will just be better anyway. And if you don't want to think about it too much, you can just always put on the highest level item and you'll be absolutely fine. So go through all of your loot again, put on your best item and dismantle or sell all the rest. And do that for every slot that you have. So I'm going to put my best knee pads on now and get rid of everything else. And that is basically your loot management while you're going through the game. As you do get further towards the end of the game and towards the world tier grind, you will get high-end items. They're going to have some more stats on them, and you'll eventually get talents on your chest piece and your backpack. With talents, they do different stuff to your build. So for example, you might get a talent called Unbreakable on your chest piece. What this does is when you lose your armor, that armor will basically regenerate for you once every 60 seconds. So you get to use your arm again. That's really good. There's a backpack talent called Vigilance that gives you extra damage if you don't take any damage to 25%. Just have a look at them. Those talents are really going to help improve the build. But again, on your initial playthrough, getting to the end game, it's not that important, and just keep on putting your best gear on that you get as you're going through. The only other thing I'd say you want to take note of is the core attributes on the pieces. Now, the grey pieces don't have any stats whatsoever, but from green upwards, you do have core attributes. And depending on the brand of the gear that you get, you'll have weapon damage, which is a red core. I've got that on both of these. But you might get blue cores, which is armor, or yellow cores, which is skill tier. Red cores is very obvious. That's going to be increasing your weapon damage. So if I had 6 pieces with all red cores on, my weapon damage is going to be quite high. So I'm going to have to take care of the enemies mainly with my weapons, but I'm not going to have a ton of survivability, and my skill damage isn't going to be very high. If I had 6 pieces with all blue cores, I'm going to be very tanky because I'm going to have a load of armor. My weapon damage is going to be decreased though, and again, my skills aren't going to be doing much damage either. And if I had 6 pieces with all skill tiers, my skills are going to be doing a lot of damage. So my striker drone will be very good. That'll kill enemies very quickly. But I'm not going to be very tanky myself, and I'm not going to have a ton of weapon damage. Again, none of this is that important while you're going through your first playthrough. Everything's played on story difficulty, and as long as you have your highest items equipped and you're at the right level per activity, you'll be absolutely fine. But it's worth taking note of, because if you get a nice mixture of red cores, blue cores, or yellow cores for the skills, you can just adjust your game plan a little bit. Like for example, if it turned out that I had 4 yellow cores with 2 blue cores on my build, I'd make sure I use my striker drone more and just took advantage of that extra skill power. If though those yellow cores weren't there and there's red cores instead, I'd then make sure that I'm using my guns a little bit more to take out the enemies. So just use that to plan your playstyle as you go through the game. These are all the missions that you are going to have to complete. The final mission is Federal Emergency Bunker before you take on the 3 strongholds, which we discussed earlier. And then you just need to reach a required level to take on the strongholds and finally complete Capitol Building at level 30. Once you reach level 30 and before you do take on Capitol Building though, you're going to unlock Specializations. And there's going to be 3 to start with: the Sharpshooter, Survivalist, and Demolitionist. How these work is each specialization has its own perks, and you've got to equip the specialization to start unlocking points to spend on these perks. This is an activity that you're going to take well into endgame with you. Just make sure you equip one. I quite like the demolitionist one, but go with whichever one you want and just make sure you have one on. So every activity that you do going forward is going to unlock points for you to spend. The end goal here is just to get into endgame and just work on all of your specializations to get them all maxed out. And there's additional specializations as well. We've got technician, gunner, and firewall. For each of these specializations, depending on if you have bought like the year one pass or not, there's going to be activities that you need to do in order to unlock the specialization first. And then once unlocked, it works exactly the same. You just need to equip it, wear it, unlock specialization points to unlock all of the perks on each specialization. Now, I'm not going to go much more into specializations now, but these are very important in the tough end game content. When you do get there, you're going to be using different specializations for different builds that you make, so you have different perks to help out yourself and your team. And also, they're making some big specialization adjustments. If you're watching this video now, at some point in year 5, there's going to be a specialization revamp, and it is going to change the way that these work. So right now, how we go in and we have this skill tree that we're going to unlock, this will look entirely different in the future, but no one knows what it's going to look like right now. But I assume they'll still be the same. You're going to need to unlock different perks on each specialization, which is going to alter your playstyle and the way your build works. So with specializations unlocked and you completing the main stronghold capital building, it's going to send you into world tiers. You'll go back to the White House, there'll be a cutscene, and you'll enter world tier 1. I have no footage of the world tiers, unfortunately, but it's very easy, and I'm just going to explain it from my end game screen now, all the way at level 40. You'll enter world tier 1, and there's going to be 6 invaded missions that look like this. There'll be missions that are red, and you're going to need to complete these. You're going to also notice that each stronghold is invaded as well. You'll have an invaded District Union Arena, you'll have an invaded Roosevelt Island, and you'll have an invaded Capitol building. Now, there are 4 world tiers that you need to work through in order to get to world tier 5. And from where you'll be after completing your very first Capitol building in world tier 1, you just want to start by improving your gear score. Now, gear score is a new thing that unlocks in the world tiers. And instead of having like a gear level like we have here, like level 40, it's going to be a score of something like, I don't know, it might be a gear score of 130, 150 or whatnot. And when you hover over an invaded stronghold on the world tier, it's going to advise you what gear score you need to be at. Now, all you need to do at this point is complete the invaded missions that are available. Like I said, there's going to be 6 in total, and 2 are going to be attached to each stronghold. So for District Union Arena, you'll have maybe Grand Washington Hotel, an American History Museum, say, attached to it. It could be different ones, I'm not sure. But you have to complete those 2 missions, and then you're going to be able to take on the stronghold. Those missions should give you enough loot to have the required gear score. But if not, you can just go and complete open world activities, control points, or anything like that to get more loot, just to bump up that gear score to take on the mission. And once you've took on the mission or the stronghold, that's going to advance you to the next world tier. You'll be in world tier 2. It's the same again. You're going to have to complete some invaded missions to unlock the stronghold and take on the stronghold. That'll put you into the next world tier. And then it's the same again. There'll be some more invaded missions. You'll have to take on those 2 invaded missions to unlock the 3rd and final stronghold and take on that to put you in world tier 4. At world tier 4, you'll have 2 final activities. An mission will open up in this area on the map here. You just have to go there to complete it. There's no enemies or anything. And that takes you onto Tidal Basin. It'll be the first time that you take on Tidal Basin. Again, it'll give you a recommended gear score. Just make sure you do side activities and control points until you reach that to make it as easiest as it can be. And then take on Tidal Basin. Once you've done that, you'll be into the true end game of the Division 2 and World Tier 5. Now, once at World Tier 5, if you don't have the expansion, that is it. You're in the end game. You want to move on to my other videos. You're going to have loads of tough end game content to complete, and I'll discuss the end game in other videos. So just go and check out the playlist down below for more beginner's guide. That is it for this video for you. However, if you do have the Warlords of New York campaign, just carry on watching, because now we're going to go and complete that. You just come south of the White House. If we have a quick look at the map here, it's this icon here. And you come and talk to this helicopter pilot. He is going to take you to the Warlords of New York campaign. You can actually do this at any point. I haven't actually got my character to World Tier 5 for this video. I've been able to do it without that. And as you can see, I can boost it still. So the option that you had at the very start of the game, whether you can do the main campaign or just boost to New York right away, you can do at any time. But if you get to World Tier 5 first, this is just where you come and it'll just tell you to head over to New York to start the expansion. There's going to be a cutscene as you interact with that pilot and you're going to head to New York with Kelso. And it's kind of like starting the game again. You're going to have to make your way to the first main safe house or base of operations. That place is actually a settlement and it's called Haven. So just make your way there with Kelso, taking out any enemies along the way and picking up any loot. Once you reach Haven, there's going to be a cutscene and the expansion truly begins. And it's quite simple. It's much shorter than the original playthrough, the main campaign. And we've got 4 areas of interest. It starts with the Quarantine Skyscraper, Crash Drone, Brooklyn Bridge, and National Bond Bank in each of the 4 different areas of New York. Battery Park, Financial District, 2 Bridges, and Civic Center. You could do these in any order that you want. You just head to the highlighted area, you find the objective, you complete it, it'll give you another objective, and so on until you complete the main part of that sort of zone and complete the main boss. With that completed, you just got to go and complete all 4. There's no level requirements, but there is another leveling system. What I didn't mention at the end of World Tier 4, when you enter into World Tier 5, the gear score of all of your items goes to level 30. Level 30 is the final level, it's the highest level you can get before the expansion. And all of your gear will be at that level. That's what you'll be farming for. And you're ready to farm all your builds and everything. But if you start the expansion, you start the leveling system again. Already just getting to Haven, I've picked up a couple of pieces. And now, as you can see there, I've got a level 31 police M4. As you're going through all of these activities and all of these objectives and missions, you're now going to be leveling up and finding more gear along the way. And it's the same process. Just equip your highest level gear and make sure you got your best items on to make it as easy as possible. With all 4 areas clear, there's going to be some more side missions in that you unlock as well. And eventually there's going to be one final mission that unlocks. You can't see it here, but it's going to be a mission that takes you to Liberty Island to take on Aaron Keener. This is the only mission that's going to have a level requirement, and it will require you to be level 40. If you're not level 40 after completing these 4 objectives and all of the side missions and missions, there'll be another side mission added and a few more activities around these areas as well, including control points. Just use all of these to get to level 40 and to get the best gear possible to take on the final mission, which is against Aaron Keener at Liberty Island to complete the expansion. And at this point, you're going to need to complete the expansion before you can fast travel back to Washington, D.C. Washington, D.C. is not going to be available now until you complete the expansion. It shouldn't take too long, though. When you rush through this, when you've done it before with friends, you can do it in like 2 hours. If you're playing this solo for the first time, though, it will probably take around 5 hours plus, but no more than 10 hours if you fully explore. And at level 40 and after the expansion, you are in the true end game of the Division 2 and you're gonna unlock this watch. Now, I do have another video fully explaining the end game and what to do next. We're not going to cover it in today's video, but we will have a quick look at the watch. With the watch, this basically is the end game activity where you need to unlock all of these nodes and get them filled out. We've got an offensive mode, a defensive node, a handling, and a utility. If we have a look at the offensive, you can improve your weapon damage, headshot damage, critical hit damage, and critical hit chance. On the defensive, you can improve your total health, total armor, hazard protection, and explosive resistance. On the handling, you can improve your accuracy, stability, ammo capacity, and reload speed. And under utility, you can improve your skill damage, skill repair, skill haste, and skill duration. How it works is every time you level up in endgame, you're not going to go past level 40, that is the cap, but you will get shade levels added to your watch. So for each level, you'll go up by 1 level and you'll get 1 skill or 1 level point rather to spend on a node. The first one will be offensive. The second level you'll get will be defensive. There'll be handling and there'll be utility. And on every rotation, you're also going to get a scavenging point here, which you can spend on resources or currency. It's going to take you 1,000 levels to max out all 4 of these nodes and also get 200 points towards your scavenging. And that is going to be the first goal of your level 40 end game. But I'm going to end this video here. That is the beginner's guide to Division 2 in 2023 and how to get to end game. In the next video, we're going to be discussing the end game and what to do in end game, and there's more videos as well. Down in the video description, there's a link to my beginner's guide 2023 playlist, so be sure to go and check that out. What I'm also going to do is I'm going to put an @everyone out in my community as this video goes live today. I'm going to ask people to post their tips for new players to Division 2 down in the comments. So be sure to go and check out the comments to read other people's views and tips on how to progress in the Division 2. And on a final note, be sure to come and join our community. One of my beginner guide videos is going to be how you can use our community to your advantage. It's linked down below. Come and check it out. It's probably the best Division community on Discord. It really is. You're not going to regret it. If you're going to be enjoying this game, you're going to want a team to play with, and there's no better place to find one. Come and check us out. But I'm going to end that video here. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to support. And until next time, stay safe and peace out.